Think Tank members, it's Chase Vergara here with Chris Houston.
Hey guys, it's time for an abbreviated Pac-12 Media Day podcast, a quickie.
And if you can hear that noise in the background, that's the sound of Paramount Studios, as we're on location here in Hollywood.
That is not the sound of Scott Wolf manning a drill.
So anyway, we're not a Pac-12 Media Day. We're in New York City, but we've been watching on television the great Pac-12 network coverage of Media Day, so we feel fully qualified to give a little preview, at least of the Pac-12 South.
Yeah, we're doing the Pac-12 South today. We're going to get right into it, I think.
All right, so let's start maybe with the Arizona schools, because these schools are starting to, Arizona State won the division last season. There's a lot of speculation that Arizona might make a run this year. What are your thoughts on the two Arizona schools?
These are two interesting schools. I don't think anybody goes up against these schools on a given Saturday, or especially in Arizona, thinking this is a cinch game. These are two very dangerous teams because in one case you have a very dangerous offensive coach with Rich Rodriguez, and if he gets that thing rolling, they're really hard to stop, as we saw with Oregon just demolishing them, or getting demolished by Arizona in Tucson last year late in the season. And of course ASU, we saw they put over 60 points on USC last year. So these are two teams that are very dangerous. The Arizona quarterback situation, I think, is the most intriguing quarterback situation in the Pac-12 South. You have a guy named Gerard Randall, who I saw coming out of high school. He originally signed with Oregon. I actually had him on my list of future Heisman candidates, mainly because I foresaw him being a really great player in the Oregon offensive system. He then transferred out, probably because of Marcus Mariota. He was in the same recruiting class. He transferred over to LSU, and then he washed out of LSU. He probably got up to some bad things, and he went to JC. So he's a triple transfer, bounce back over to Arizona. He's got a really strong arm. He's an excellent athlete. His arm's actually incredibly strong. If you go look up his YouTube, Gerard Randall, you'll see just how strong it is. And then, of course, you have Connor Brewer, who's a transfer from Texas, and then Jesse Scroggins, who is in his 9th year of college football from USC, and they have a redshirt freshman named Anu Solomon, who's actually an interesting prospect as well. I think it's between Randall and Solomon to solidify that position. If they do solidify it, and if Randall especially develops, it's going to be a very good offense.
So Arizona last season, they really, in quarterback play, really dictated a lot of their strength. Now, obviously, they relied heavily on Kadeem Carey. He's gone to the NFL now. They're not going to have the same workhorse. Even if they find a really breakthrough running back, he's probably not going to be a guy who's going to carry the ball 40 times a game like Kadeem Carey could for them last season. But their offense really turned on the quarterback play last season. So when Denker had strong games, Arizona played well. When Denker struggled, and that happened, especially early in the season, they didn't look so hot. Yeah. Chris and I don't always agree on players, but when it comes to Gerard Randall, even before Chris had commented on him, I saw him independently, and I said, well, this is a very intriguing and potentially dangerous prospect. He's still a bit raw. I'm not sure. It's unclear at this point exactly how successful he's going to be completing passes in the Pac-12. However, if they can get their offense going, they're going to have open receivers, and I'm guessing he'll be able to hit open receivers.
Yeah, think about the Nick Marshall type of thing, and he wasn't actually a great passer, especially in the first 3 quarters of the season. Over the last 6 or 7 games, I believe he led the nation in passing efficiency, but he had a really bad start. But I would compare him as far as the rawness and the athleticism. They are very similar type of players in that regard. And Rich Rod is great at bringing up young quarterbacks or fresh quarterbacks. Obviously, he had Denard Robinson starting at a pretty early phase in his career. He was very raw. There was also the Forcier as a true freshman came in and for the first half of that freshman season did some pretty fun things. So point being, Rich Rod is in the situation before. I think he's got a lot of quarterbacks to choose from. He's got 4 quarterbacks who I think, I think Scroggins is going to be crappy in that system, but between Randall and Solomon, I think one of these guys is going to emerge, and Arizona at least is going to be very dangerous on offense.
So, my guess for where Arizona ultimately ends up.
They get Austin Hill back too. Let's not forget that.
Yeah, so I'm guessing they'll end up somewhere, third to fourth place in the division. That's my best guess. But that doesn't mean they're not very dangerous. And couldn't really beat almost anybody at any given time.
Yeah.
Especially you watch them just how they just manhandled Oregon last season.
Totally agree. And I think they actually have a pretty good secondary coming back, if I recall, including Jonathan McKnight, brother of Joe McKnight.
As far as Arizona State, so Arizona State's an interesting team. They obviously won the South last season. They got Lane Kiffin fired, so they did us a nice favor there. They beat UCLA in a game where UCLA kind of fell apart. UCLA should have beat them, really kind of outplayed them or looked like a better team for the last half of that game or so. And then, did not play well at all in the Pac-12 championship game against Stanford.
Mentally, Stanford has mental superiority over a few teams, Oregon and Arizona State, namely.
That was a little. I'll have to say that game in their bowl game, it did bother me a bit because I got the sense that maybe they're doing something here with Todd Graham, that he had convinced Arizona State that they weren't really Arizona State, that they could actually mentally overcome the history of Arizona State and win, continue to win, and when they have a really good team, win the big game. I'm not entirely sure about that, and I their offense is going to be very, very dangerous this season. Make no mistake about it, but. They've lost Grice. He was kind of a workhorse for them. They've got some good players, that can fill in and make plays. But I after they lost Grice last season, they weren't so good. I think Chris is higher on them than I am.
But look, Todd Graham says this is the best offense he's ever coached. I tend to agree with him. I know they lose Grice, but they have DJ Foster back. They have a recruit coming in named Deshaun Hayes, who we disagree on him, but I think he's potentially a great running back. Especially in that system. He's very much a guy who I think I can see him doing the types of things that Grice did in that system. They have Jalen Strong back, who is arguably the best receiver in the Pac-12. My tab coming out of JC last year, I called him one of the top 10 recruits in the country. And he certainly had a great year as a junior college transfer. They have another JC transfer coming in. So, look, this will be a good offense. The defense, obviously, everyone's talking about. They lost, I think, 9 starters. This will have to be an offense that outscores people. But if you're going to have an offense that outscores people, it's good to actually have one that does. Or if you have to have one, they have one. Is my point. So this is going to be a fun team to watch, no doubt about it. And what's interesting, a little wild card is Taylor Kelly is established quarterback going into his third year as a starter. But they do have some interesting young guys behind him who can come in situations. Eubanks, for instance, is a kind of interesting athlete.
So Taylor Kelly, if memory serves, actually led the Division I last season in yards and maybe pass efficiency outside the pocket. It was a strange stat.
But I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I can see that. Yeah,
he had this strange stat about that. Okay, so every once in a while, I'll get a vibe for something. Here's my off-the-wall prediction. I have a feeling Taylor Kelly's going to get injured this season, but one of these other guys might step up, and they might be just as good.
This Eubank guy is pretty good.
So let's talk about the two kind of out-of-region teams, Colorado and Utah. My general feeling on both of these programs is Utah is kind of stuck in the mud. They keep looking like they'll show signs of improvement, and they haven't been. They really did nothing last season after Travis Wilson got injured. Colorado, on the other hand, I think they might be building something there. It might take them a while. They have a lot of ground to make up. I really like that coach.
Yeah.
I think Colorado might break through with a couple surprise wins this season.
I agree with you. I think what they did was they did what you have to do when you come into a really bad situation. I think he stopped the bleeding. I think first you have to not. There's a transition. You have to start by not getting worse, and then you have to slowly start getting better. And I think they stopped getting worse. The first half of the season, and toward the second half of the season, they started getting better. Even the USC Colorado game, they sort of, I think came down. If I understand, that went down to an onside kick. If I think back to it, it was 40-28. They had come back and they were going for the onside kick. Didn't come down to the onside kick, but it came down to the point where the game could have been close if they'd gotten an onside kick. Right. Let's to clarify. But point being, they weren't necessarily this team that just rolled over and went away, like for instance Cal did last year against USC.
Yeah, they weren't. They've decided they're going to try hard enough not to quit when they
play
got
hard.
down.
And I think they've got a good quarterback, or at least a good kind of a gritty type quarterback.
The quarterback is Cepho Louis Fowl.
That's why, I couldn't remember how to say his name, but he's actually pretty good. He's got some skills. He's a great classic dual threat quarterback. He's not bad. I think he's actually has a chance to be a legitimate guy. Sort of one of those guys like a George Malaulu who, after 4 years, by his senior season, he might be crafty enough to be effective. So, and also I think their defense has been much improved. They had a true freshman linebacker last year who came in, led the team in tackles, or was close to it, and was really high quality. They have a guy, Nembot, on the offensive line who's developing into a decent player. Me and Landy Julius looked at him coming out about 4 years ago, and we were wondering why SC didn't offer him. He was a big 6'8", 330-pound Nigerian who hadn't played much football, but he was a pretty good athlete. I think he signed with Washington State, but ended up at Colorado. So Nembot, I think, is a pretty solid guy. Might be an NFL guy. So they're starting to put some pieces together. I think McIntyre's recruiting pretty good. He's reaching into Hawaii and reaching into parts of Texas. So I think this is a program on the rise.
Utah, I don't know what the deal is with that program there. I mean, they did beat Stanford last season, but
no, they didn't. Did they?
Yeah,
they did. That's right.
They did beat Stanford.
Crazy.
Travis Wilson is kind of a strange quarterback. He's it's kind of like the guy. He's like the best that Utah's got right now, and he's essentially responsible for pretty much 90% of their offense because there's not really anything else going on.
He has nothing. I think he's tool wise. I think he's a good quarterback. I think he was rushed in really young on a bad team, and of course just got beat to hell. And to the point where they didn't think he would ever play football again. And he is coming back.
He's going to come back.
He should.
He might be in the morgue by October.
That guy's a tough bastard. I'll tell you that right now. So but I think he's good. If you actually look at cut-ups of the game against USC, until he just sort of tries to do too much and through interceptions, he was doing some. He was running the ball. He was throwing the ball in there.
Well, and he beat Stanford. He had an amazing first half against Stanford.
I mean, the guy is capable of playing at a high level. In the FBS, it's just that can he put it together? Does he have guys around him? I think the problem with Utah since they've entered the Pac-12 has been their I think schizophrenic offensive style. They've gone back and forth between coordinators. They started out a few years ago. They had Norm Chow they brought in, so they went away from the spread that was had been installed under Urban Meyer and had actually helped Kyle Whittingham go 14-0. And beat Alabama. Was it Alabama they beat?
Yeah, they beat Alabama.
So so they decided, we're going to get Norm Chow. We're going to go to an offense that was in vogue 4 years earlier, and they really didn't have the personnel to run that offense. They didn't really have the. You kind of need more talent to run that style of offense.
Yeah, that was a big mistake.
Yeah. So then what they did was they brought in Brian Johnson, who was the quarterback.
Who beat Alabama.
Who beat Alabama, and he was sort of he was the youngest offensive coordinator in FBS, or at least among major FBS schools. And he, again, growing pains there, offense still struggling. So then last year they bring in Dennis Erickson, who is now like the old wise guy at the helm. And so now they have co-offensive coordinators, Dennis Erickson and Brian Johnson. And so I think that has been the problem, but I think Erickson potentially, this guy has a long history of taking guys who are sort of lost causes or in college, or lost causes, players who just kind of are throwaway. And Utah is the epitome of those types of players. A lot of guys that weren't necessarily on the first tier recruits for the rest of the Pac-12. So he has a great way of finding them and using them right, as long as he's sober and can figure that out.
Yeah, so I was wondering, who has a longer life expectancy?
But he's in Utah.
Right, okay, so who has a longer life expectancy at this point? Dennis Erickson or Travis Wilson? And I'm not sure about that. We'll leave that.
Good question.
I think there is, obviously there's a ton to schematics on offense and, trying to get the ball in space and making defenders make plays is a huge aspect of college football. But there's also something to be said about having like a minimum threshold of talent. Utah definitely had that on defense. I mean, their defense was absolutely there was legit stellar BCS level defense. They did not really have BCS level personnel on offense. I'm not sure if they will this season. I mean, that's you need guy at some point. When things are not going well, you need a guy to make a play. And Utah, other than Travis Wilson, really didn't have that last season. So I'm not sure if they're going to have it this season. I have a feeling they're going to finish last in the South, but we shall see. Okay, well let's talk about the team everyone loves to talk about, the UCLA Bruins. They are this week. The media poll came out that they took 37, I think, of the 38 picks for the top of the South. It's hard to make an argument against them to be the South favorite. They have a lot coming back. They should probably have won the South last season. They played a tough schedule. They played both Stanford and Oregon last year. Now they play them again this season, so that's something to keep in mind. It might, could trip them up along the way. They did not look very good against either of those schools. Beyond that, though, they won their bowl game. It was a really nice season they put together last year.
And they did it with a ton of true freshmen playing on the offensive line.
Yeah, the offensive line was an absolute, mash unit, and they made it work. I mean, they really, Adrian Clem deserves a lot of credit there, or whoever's responsible. I mean, it was a real amazing kind of patchwork offensive line. And it also goes to show a lot how, people really overstate the importance of having you want veterans on the offensive line, but this whole notion that you need first team All-Americans, first round picks on your offensive line to be good, that's not really how it works. I mean, your offensive line excels from the execution of the offense, and if you're confusing the defense, your offensive line is going to look better. Look at Oregon. The perfect illustration is Oregon. You could not possibly tell me that man for man, Oregon's offensive line is that dominant compared to every other Pac-12 defense they play, but they've got the opposing defense, as we like to say, they're on roller skates. Mm-hmm. They're confused. They don't know where to go. And UCLA has done a really nice job of mixing up their offense, confusing defenses, putting Hundley in a really nice position to make plays, and Hundley's made plays.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right on that. They have very good offensive coaching. Noel Mazzoni is a very good offensive coach. He used to be really bad offensive coach, and then he turned it around and changed and figured out that he needed to do something different because he just wasn't getting it done. And he found a style and a scheme that he has mastered, and he left it. And it helped at Arizona State, and it's sort of been left in place there with Jay Norvell. And he's come over to UCLA, and it's all about timing with certain coaches, and he was very lucky to have Brett Hundley in place for him to sort of mold and in that offense. And but I think the biggest thing that I think a lot of USC people sort of poo-poo is just how Mora has gone in and changed the attitude of that program. And it's very similar to what Harbaugh did at Stanford, but on a lighter scale, because Harbaugh, I think, is arguably one of the greatest at doing that. But just like Harbaugh went to Stanford and got these sort of pretty good athletes who were torn between academics and torn between the desire to be CEO of Yahoo and whether they want to really play football or care about football, to get them to care about football and to be maniacal about football. That's what Mora has kind of done at UCLA, where he's made them tougher, he's made them brasher. UCLA. Speaking of reputations, this is a school that we're just, players come and they just seem to get softer, or they have historically over the years. So they're not soft anymore. They play hard. They believe in themselves, and I think that's been a big part of their turnaround.
Yeah, that's Mora's definitely changed the culture there. He's changed what people's expectations of themselves and what they think they need to do and what they can do and what they're going to do on a Saturday.
And I think another thing is I think he's recruited very well. I know there's the recruiting drama of what they thought they were going to get at the end last year. But all you can do is look at the class they recruited. And this is another thing that USC fans, it drives me crazy about fans all over the country, is that they know their team better than anybody. So when a star player at USC goes to the NFL and somebody else says, "Oh, USC's in trouble, they lost their best player," USC fans go, "Oh, well, we got his backup is just as good. He's going to be great," But which is normal because everyone knows the backup player on their favorite team and how how good he is, and they followed him in recruiting. But no one follows the backup player at the other teams. And so they'll talk about UCLA or they'll talk about Stanford or Oregon, and they'll say, "Oh, they just lost that guy. They're gonna have a huge fall next year." And it's one thing if you've actually looked at to see who's going to replace those guys, but it's another thing if you haven't. And this is where you have that situation where your favorite team plays another team and you don't respect them or you don't know anything about their players, and they beat you, and you're like, "How did that happen?" And it's because they have other teams have players too, and other teams recruit, and other teams scout, and so. UCLA has done a very good job recruiting. I think they have been on a same level par of recruiting with USC since Mora has gotten there. And I know it doesn't show up in the recruiting rankings, but as far as
they've also, since Moore's been there, they've also SC's been limited in class size.
Right, absolutely.
So that's you can make mistakes.
Right.
One knock I have to say, Moore has been able to do things that, personnel-wise, he's had flexibility
Sure.
that SC has not had. He's run off,
Right.
I think, about 20 guys.
Without a doubt, that's a whole different subject. But when you look at the bottom line of
The bottom line is their personnel is very strong.
The personnel is very good. They had guys like, I remember looking at their recruiting class last year and seeing Miles Jack, and he was a guy that no one talked about. And I said, this guy's really, really good. And why isn't anybody talking about this guy? And he turned out to be really good. And they have another guy who came in from Texas who I really liked. And some of those linemen who started last year, Caleb Beninock, I saw him out of high school. I thought this is a really high quality player. And so, a lot of the things happening with their roster doesn't surprise me, because when you look at the actual tape of these guys, they're pretty good players. So, and when you combine pretty good players with pretty good coaching, you get a pretty good team.
Yeah.
And so UCLA has always had that capability to get high level players, and they're starting to put it together a bit. And
and I think Miles Jack, I think, is better than pretty good. He's potentially a
he's
superstar.
great. He's a
superstar.
He's a first round pick.
What are the questions? I'm curious if they're going to play him at running back this season. I have a feeling they will. I'm not positive about that, but I have a feeling
he'll probably still go both ways.
He probably will.
Is what I think. This program is humming right now. Will it be enough to win the Pac-12 South? I think they're definitely the favorites, but that's
why they play the game.
That's why they play the game. If maybe Hundley gets hurt. I know they're high on their backup, Ashante Woolard. I'm not really high on him, at least based on his high school tape. Maybe he's suddenly developed. I haven't seen any of him in at practice, obviously. So maybe they are high on him. But there's a true freshman coming in named Aaron Kraft, who I really like. He ran a 2090 his senior year of high school. So
that's 2090 the 200.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it's going to be an interesting season. I think we'll cover USC to a separate podcast because for obvious reasons. But we'll try to do a preview of the North coming up, and then maybe some of the other conferences, because people like to talk about the other conferences too.
Yeah. And if you have any suggested topics that you want us to cover in future podcasts, please let us know. It was kind of a slow week this week, even though there was Pac-12 Media Day. Nothing's really happening on the USC front. We're just waiting for the inevitable shakedown at Rivals and Scout to finally culminate.
Yeah, we're at about T-minus 38 days.
Yes,
so.
exactly.
All right, guys. Everyone take care, and we'll talk to you soon.
Love you.